A rural old woman adopted 5 boys nobody wanted. 28 years later, they did the unthinkable. Before we dive into this breathtaking story of overcoming obstacles, leave a comment below telling us which city and country you're watching us from. Stay tuned until the end. The unexpected encounter. Evelyn Parker lived on a simple farm in the countryside, leading a life marked by hard work and the solitude of rural life. Despite her financial difficulties, she had a generous heart and a deep desire to do something meaningful. The day she met 5 rejected boys would change her life forever. She saw in them something that few others saw, a future full of possibilities. The boys, abandoned and rejected, had lived through painful experiences that left deep scars. Evelyn found them in a local shelter, a cold and unwelcoming place, where fear and sadness dominated the boys' looks. She felt an instant connection, a mission she needed to fulfill to give them a real chance at a new beginning. Even though she knew it wouldn't be easy, Evelyn decided to adopt them, even without many resources or support. Her love and determination were greater than any obstacle that might arise. She believed that with care and discipline, it would be possible to rebuild their shattered lives. So she began to prepare her house to welcome them, without knowing exactly what this new journey would be like, but certain that love would be the basis for everything. It was the beginning of a story that would transform not only those boys, but Evelyn herself. Community resistance. Evelyn's decision soon became a topic of conversation in the small rural community. Many looked with suspicion at the woman who was adopting 5 rejected boys, believing that it would only bring problems for her and the region. The prejudice was palpable, and, in many conversations, the woman was advised to give up on the idea, considered impractical. Despite the criticism, Evelyn did not let herself be discouraged. She knew the path would be difficult, but what mattered most was what she felt in her heart. The support of the community was not a condition for her to fulfill her mission, and her courage in facing the suspicious looks only strengthened her decision. The boys also felt the weight of prejudice and judgment from others, which made it even harder for them to adapt. Many of them were withdrawn, suspicious and afraid of yet another rejection. Evelyn understood these feelings and worked tirelessly to show them that they could finally find a home there. She invested her time and her little savings to ensure that each of them had food, clothing, and, most importantly, affection. The small advances achieved during this phase were celebrated intensely, because for Evelyn and the boys, each step was a victory against abandonment. First steps in a new home. The arrival of the 5 boys at Evelyn's house was marked by a mixture of hope and fear. They were apprehensive, not knowing what to expect from this new home where the faces were unfamiliar and the future uncertain. The woman who welcomed them tried hard to convey confidence, but she knew that their adaptation would be slow and full of ups and downs. The first few days were tense. The boys kept their distance, looked at each other suspiciously, and rarely showed affection. It was a challenge for Evelyn to break down these barriers, but she didn't give up. Every small gesture of kindness was given patiently without rushing, respecting each person's time to open up. To help them adjust, Evelyn established a clear and simple routine, giving each boy responsibilities in the house. This not only created discipline, but also strengthened their sense of belonging. Little by little, they began to understand that, although things were different from what they knew, here they had the chance to build something new. The house, which was once just an empty space, began to transform into a living and welcoming space. Living together brought challenges, but it also paved the way for hope. That unlikely family took its first steps towards a future that no one could have imagined. Difficulties and union. The following weeks were marked by many challenges. The coexistence between 5 boys with painful pasts and a single woman was full of natural conflicts. But Evelyn, with her firmness and tenderness, mediated each situation calmly and wisely. She knew that mutual respect would be the basis for overcoming the problem. Limited financial resources forced Evelyn to find simple and creative solutions to provide the bare minimum for everyone. With modest meals and basic care, she did what she could to ensure that no one went hungry or cold. For her, these gestures were more than physical needs. They represented care and protection. The solidarity between the boys was one of the pillars that sustained the family at that time. Each one brought their own pain, but they also began to realize that together they could face what had previously seemed impossible. The feeling of belonging grew every day. and the word home began to make sense to everyone. Even with so many obstacles, Evelyn never let discouragement take over. She reinforced to herself and her boys that the past did not need to be a sentence, but a lesson to build a better future. The strength of that woman and the unity of the family were capable of transforming even the most difficult situations. The values that transform. From the very beginning, Evelyn knew that love would not be enough to guarantee a decent future for her boys. She also needed to teach them solid values that would guide them in life. She took the time to talk about respect, honesty, and the importance of effort, even when the conditions seemed adverse. Education was a priority for Evelyn. Despite the difficulties, she made sure her boys attended school and dedicated themselves to their studies. She believed that knowledge would be the key to opening doors and allowing them to dream of something bigger than their harsh and limited reality. She also taught the importance of responsibility, assigning small daily tasks to each child so that they would understand the value of work and cooperation. These lessons helped to strengthen the boys' character and created a solid foundation for the future that was beginning to be built. The road was long and full of obstacles, but Evelyn knew that with discipline and love, those boys could overcome any barrier. That family, although unlikely, was beginning to write a story of transformation that none of them would ever forget. First, achievements. As the months passed, the boys began to show signs of change that filled Evelyn with pride. That group, previously fragmented and distrustful, was coming together in a genuine way, creating bonds that went beyond blood. The woman's efforts seemed to bear fruit. They dedicated themselves more to their studies and household chores, responding to the trust they had received. At school, the boys faced challenges, but they never stopped trying. Evelyn's constant support, who monitored their grades and encouraged them to learn, made them see that knowledge was a powerful tool. They began to dream of professions, futures, and achievements that previously seemed unattainable. In addition to school, working on the farm also helped teach discipline and perseverance. Everyone participated in the daily activities, from caring for the animals to planting and harvesting. These simple but essential tasks reinforced a sense of responsibility and showed that success is built step by step. Evelyn felt that even in the face of difficulties, that was the moment when everything began to change. The foundation of love and dedication built up until then began to reflect in small, great results that gave hope for a better future. In the past that haunts, even with the progress, the shadows of the past still haunted the boys' lives. Some had deep emotional scars that at times made them withdraw or act impulsively. The fear of abandonment was still present and at times triggered internal conflicts that were difficult to control. Evelyn knew she could not erase the pain of the past, but she was determined not to let it define the future of these young people. She patiently listened, understood, and, when necessary, sought outside help to deal with more intense traumas. This attention to emotional detail was essential to keeping the family together. The boys began to understand that they were not alone in facing their ghosts. Living together, talking, and helping each other created an environment where they could open up and seek support. Evelyn, with her life experience, was the firm and loving figure who helped them rebuild trust. This process, although painful, was necessary for them to move forward. Overcoming old wounds was a fundamental step so that they could believe in a different future, with opportunities and achievements. The community begins to change little by little. The community's view of Evelyn and the boys began to change. What had previously been a source of prejudice and judgment gave way to recognition for the effort and visible results. Some people began to admire the courage of this woman who faced so many difficulties to ensure a dignified life for the boys. This transformation was slow but steady. Small gestures of support began to emerge. One neighbor offered tools, another helped with advice or small donations. Evelyn felt that the isolation that marked the first months was beginning to disappear, giving way to a feeling of solidarity and respect. The presence of the boys, who were now more actively involved in local life, also influenced this change. They showed themselves to be dedicated and respectful, breaking down prejudices and building bridges that previously seemed impossible. Their integration into the community was a clear sign that the transformation was real. With this new phase, Evelyn saw her mission gain even more strength. This was not just a home, but a point of hope for all who believe that real change is possible when one has courage and love. A shared dream. As stability grew, The boys began to share their most sincere dreams with Evelyn. Each had aspirations that went beyond the daily life of the farm and the small town where they lived. They talked about careers, travel, and even building their own families in the future. Evelyn listened attentively, encouraging everyone to believe in themselves and fight for their goals. For her, dreams were living proof that they were on the right path, and that the transformation they sought was possible. She made a point of emphasizing that despite the difficulties, nothing would stop them from achieving their goals. This exchange of dreams and expectations strengthened the bond between them. The house was no longer a temporary refuge, but a place where hope was cultivated and a future was built. The boys began to see Evelyn not only as an adoptive mother, but as a true guide and inspiration. The welcoming family environment created by Evelyn generated a feeling of security that allowed the boys to dare to imagine a different life, full of opportunities and achievements. Challenges of adolescence. As time went by, the boys grew up and faced the typical challenges of adolescence. Questions of identity, friendship, and life choices began to emerge, testing the limits of Evelyn's patience and understanding. Coexistence became more complex, requiring even more dialogue and balance. There were moments of tension and conflict, typical of this phase, but the solid foundation built in the previous years helped to overcome these difficulties. Evelyn remained present, offering emotional support and advice, always trying to understand each person's individual needs. Respect for differences became essential for the family to remain united. Evelyn encouraged the expression of feelings and opinions, always within the limits of mutual respect, so that the boys could develop in a healthy and safe way. Despite the natural turbulence of age, the trust and love built during childhood were what kept the family strong. Evelyn knew that this period was delicate, but she believed that with patience the young people would reach a promising future. The first job, an important milestone, came when the first of the boys got formal jobs. These were small but significant steps towards their autonomy and independence. Evelyn celebrated each achievement, knowing that it was the result of everyone's joint effort and perseverance. These jobs, although simple at first, brought new responsibilities and the chance to gradually experience adult life. The boys learned to value their own work, understanding that success was the result of dedication and commitment. Evelyn was always there, guiding and supporting, but also knowing when to give the young people space to grow. She encouraged them to continue studying and not give up on their dreams, even when faced with difficulties in the job market. This phase marked the beginning of a new stage, where the future began to be built on more solid foundations, and the relationship between Evelyn and the boys evolved into a bond of respect and mutual admiration. The recognition over time, the family story attracted attention beyond the local community. The story of the woman who adopted 5 rejected boys and raised them into responsible and dedicated young men became an inspiration to many. Evelyn was invited to speak about her experience and help others in similar situations. Public recognition brought a new dimension to their lives. In addition to personal pride, the woman and her children began to be seen as an example of overcoming, resilience, and unconditional love. This opened doors to opportunities that previously seemed inaccessible. The most significant change, however, was in the impact that the story had on the boys' own lives. They realized that they could change not only their own paths, but also positively influence other people, reinforcing the importance of love and solidarity. For Evelyn, that moment was confirmation that her efforts had been worth it. The dream that had been born on a difficult day on the farm was becoming a reality, and the promising future she had always believed in was within everyone's reach. Success that came. Slowly time passed, and the collective effort finally bore concrete fruit. The boys, now young adults, began to excel in their professional fields. Some went on to university, others invested in their own businesses, always with their eyes on the future and gratitude for those who gave them a chance. Evelyn saw her dream come true in the form of transformed lives. She was very proud, but she knew that this success was not the result of chance, but rather of a path full of battles, difficult choices, and, above all, unconditional love. That group that no one wanted became a reference for overcoming obstacles. The most impressive thing was that, despite their success, the young people never forgot their roots. Humility and respect remained alive in every gesture, in every word, showing that true wealth goes beyond money. They carried in their hearts gratitude for those who opened the doors for them, Evelyn's life, once lonely and marked by hardships, had completely transformed. Those 5 boys, now successful men, were her greatest achievement and a source of inspiration for all who knew her story. The mansion surprise. One day, the 5 young people, now financially independent and established, decided it was time to repay the love and sacrifice of the woman who raised them as a mother. With planning and much love, they bought a spacious and comfortable mansion for Evelyn, a true dream home. When they handed over the keys to the house, the boys expressed their gratitude in a moving way. They wanted Evelyn to have everything she deserved, a place where she could live in comfort and safety, away from the hardships of the past. It was concrete proof of the strong bond that united them. For Evelyn, this was the greatest reward she could receive. More than material goods, the mansion represented recognition of a life dedicated to love and hope. It was proof that investing in others, even when no one else believed in it, can change destinies forever. The mansion became a symbol of the family's victory over adversity. Each room held a story. Each wall reflected the strength and determination of everyone who lived there and built a better future. New plans, new fights. Despite winning the mansion and financial success, life continued to present challenges. Each of the young people followed their own path, with responsibilities, choices, and personal obstacles. Evelyn knew that the work did not end there, but she strengthened herself to support each one in future battles. The woman and her children remained united, even though they had different routines. The constant visits and mutual support were proof that, regardless of the distances and difficulties, the bond created was unbreakable. Love was the common thread in that story. Evelyn, with her experience and wisdom, became a counselor and inspiration not only for the adopted children, but for the entire community. She believed that the cycle of love and overcoming needed to continue, helping more and more people who faced similar difficulties. The painful past was left behind, but the determination to transform lives and do good remained more alive than ever, showing that just one person can make an immense difference in the world around them. The legacy of love time passed and Evelyn's legacy was consolidated. Those 5 young men, now accomplished men, decided to create a social project to help children and teenagers in vulnerable situations, inspired by the story they lived. The initiative gained strength and respect, bringing together volunteers, donors, and partners who believed in the power of transformation. The farm where it all began became a center of welcome, education, and opportunities for many others who, like them, needed a chance to change their lives. Evelyn was thrilled to see her mission grow and take on a life of its own. The dream that began with a lot of effort and simple love multiplied, reaching generations and renewing hope. The story of that family was living proof that love is the greatest force in the world. Each smile, each achievement of the young people served was a tribute to the past, a victory against abandonment and prejudice, and a bright future for all who dreamed of transforming their lives. National recognition. The story of the woman and her 5 boys gained national attention. Reports, interviews, and documentaries highlighted the strength of the family and the positive impact of the social project they created. Evelyn became a respected public figure, a symbol of hope and resilience. The boys, now men, also took on the role of spokespersons for this message of overcoming and love. They used their voices to encourage others not to give up, even when faced with great difficulties. Their experience was an inspiration to thousands of Brazilians. The recognition brought resources and support to expand the social project, allowing more children and adolescents to be welcomed and have access to education, health, and opportunities for growth. The cycle of transformation was just beginning. For Evelyn and her adopted children, this was confirmation that the path they had chosen was the right one. Love, faith, and perseverance would always be the pillars for building a full and meaningful life. A bright future and a special request. Today, Evelyn lives with the tranquility she always dreamed of, surrounded by the love of her children, who transformed her life and that of so many others. The mansion is a symbol not only of financial success, but of love that overcame all difficulties. They remain united, with new projects and dreams, always looking for ways to make a difference in other people's lives. Their story proves that, with courage and determination, the impossible can become reality. If you were moved by this journey of overcoming and love, be sure to subscribe to the channel to follow inspiring stories like this one. Activate the bell and share with those you love, because transforming lives is a work we need to do together. Here, each story is a lesson in life and hope. Sign up now and be part of this family that believes that love is the path to a better future.